We have the president of our academic senate, Michelle Pilati. Welcome, Michelle. Please proceed.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, and good afternoon. I'm really pleased to be able to come and talk to you about some of the statewide initiatives that the academic senate has been leading that are related to other things that you've been talking about over the months which really made it feel like I should come and formally say, here's what we're doing, and here's how it relates to other things to the things that we are doing. Before I start, though, I want to thank you all for adopting the change and also emphasizing the need to continue creating more 1440 degrees. So we have a perfect opportunity to spread those messages. And it was also texted to me, and I was reminded that I forgot to share one recent advance with respect to 1440 that's really significant. I think I mentioned it last time that UC was considering having a mechanism whereby they really gave students who had one of these degrees a second look. So it sort of made you rise to a higher level in the review process, and UC has agreed to be doing that. So that's a recent development that's very exciting and very positive for our students. So I'm here to talk about 3 different statewide initiatives: the course identification numbering system, statewide career pathways, and who do you want to be? And I just have a few slides, and I'm probably going to say everything on my slides before you see my slides, so they're really just there to sort of back it up. And I'm keeping it simple. So if you want to find out more, you've got some handouts. We have great websites that you can go to as well. The course identification numbering system is probably the most important initiative at this point in time because of Senate Bill 1440 and the implementation of associate degrees for transfer. And this is a project that focuses on articulation and articulation specifically for the purpose of transfer, and is focused primarily on transfer from the community colleges to the CSUs, but other institutions can also participate, and I'll explain a little bit more about what that means. Then we have one of our 2 SB 70 funded projects, Statewide Career Pathways. This too is focused on articulation, but it's focused on articulation between high schools and the community colleges, specifically in the areas of career technical education. Our other SB 70 project is Who Do You Want to Be? And this is a website that is designed to entice middle school and high school students into thinking about career technical education opportunities that they can start at the high school and then continue at the community college, hence the text messaging title that some people may find offensive if they like proper English. But it was tested and the kids liked it that way. So there's a number of things that all of these initiatives have in common. They all have their origins in legislation. The course identification numbering system began as an answer to the call for common course numbering, and has now evolved into much more. And then the other 2 projects are Senate Bill 70 funded projects that you've heard a lot about over the past few meetings as grants, SB 70 grants, were approved. They're all faculty driven, and they're all intersegmental. With CID, it's community colleges and our other higher education partners working together. With statewide career pathways, it's the high schools and the regional occupational programs and the community colleges working together. All of these initiatives have very clear, identifiable benefits to students. It's not these ideas that are happening. They're things that benefit students and impact students directly. And one of the things that's unique to them is they are all about balancing statewide benefits, acting more like a system, but at the same time maintaining local control. So it's faculty saying we need to work together to simplify student movement between our colleges, between our segments, but we still need to have our own unique curriculum. But let's see how we can work together to benefit students, but at the same time maintain our autonomy and independence. So CID receives its funding from the Chancellor's Office, and it was very lucky that CID was where it was when 1440 came along. You heard about Complete College America that's funding aspects of the associate degrees for transfer, and in some instances where there's overlap between CID and those efforts, that there's some money coming in there as well. As I said, the origins of CID are common course numbering, looking for that. But today what it really is a centralized approach to articulation, and that idea of one-to-many that I mentioned earlier with respect to the TMC and degrees, That's something that we got used to saying with respect to CID. With CID, we create a course descriptor. If your course matches that descriptor, any institution can come in and say, I will accept a course that matches that descriptor. And therefore, any course that matches that descriptor, you have articulation with those colleges. So anyone can come in, say they will articulate to that descriptor, and possibly articulate with all 112 community colleges in doing that. So it really provides that simplified system, and we do have not only CSUs accepting those descriptors, but also private institutions as well. So today, CID, it provides this centralized approach to articulation, and the course descriptors that make up CID are the building block for those transfer degrees. The transfer model curriculum consists of courses. You have to describe the courses. The CID descriptors describe those courses, and so they allow for a common language about what those courses consist of, and also a quality control mechanism, which was something that the CSU was very emphatic that they wanted as they basically began this process where they're articulating whole degrees instead of individual courses. We're looking at, in the future for CID, more disciplines, more degrees, of course, and also looking at expanding into the career technical education area. Our priority has been transfer, but we're looking at, can we also start working on those areas in career technical education that also transfer. So the backbone of CID is bringing intersegmental faculty together. So when 1440 passed, we already had plans to bring faculty together to talk about curriculum, and we could add in those conversations about TMCs to the meetings that were already planned. So we had this infrastructure in place that allowed us to have the statewide response and allowed us to have the great numbers that we already have with respect to 1440, because we were already in place. CID was also well positioned to absorb and benefit from another effort to establish common major preparation, one that came out of a bill that the chancellor had written back when he was a senator, that evolved into what CSU called the lower division transfer pattern, where the CSU faculty tried to come together and come up with major preparation. They didn't quite get there, but they did a lot of good work that really was foundational as we started building the TMCs and looking at what courses should be in the TMCs and so forth. So CID provides the mechanism for communicating with faculty, a mechanism for the vetting and review of course descriptors in the TMCs that are then the basis for 1440. So that's CID. Statewide Career Pathways is one of our two SB 70 initiatives, and it's about connecting the high schools and ROPs to the community colleges, and it's similar to CID in that there's a creation of a document created by the faculty of the two segments to begin the conversation about establishing an articulation. So you bring faculty together in these CT disciplines along with articulation professionals to figure out what should these courses look like that commonly can be taken at the community college, at the high school, and then you can get credit at the community college. So these templates are created that begin the dialogue to establish an articulation agreement. And part of the idea is to establish more articulation agreements, but also to increase the portability of articulation. So if a student moves from one part of the state to another part of the state, they came from a college with an articulation agreement that was based on one of these templates, they can then refer back to that when they're at a new college. One of the ongoing challenges in the career technical education area when it comes to students taking courses at high schools and bringing them to community college is actually being awarded credit for it. In order for a student to receive transcripted community college credit for coursework taken elsewhere, they have to, taken at the high school, they have to complete some sort of credit by exam mechanism. So it's not just that you take the high school course and you get credit for it at community college. There has to be some mechanism whereby your achievement of the objectives of the course that you would have taken at the community college is documented. Sometimes things get lost in the process, and so a student will complete articulated work, never get credit. One of our efforts right now, ongoing efforts, is to work on simplifying that credit by exam process, and we're working on a paper on effective practices, and one of the things that we're looking at possibly doing is asking for a Title V change to further simplify that process. So that's something that I hope we can come and talk to you about in the future, but our goal is to have all the constituencies on board with it before we even come here. And so that's part of the reason of doing an effective practices paper, so we can be sure that we have laid out a process that people can feel good about. One of the things that we're looking at for the future of statewide career pathways is developing what in the federal language is called a program of study, where you have coursework that's taken in high school that moves to the community college and then moves all the way up to the CSU. So we're looking at, can we work that out of making that complete linkage, culminating in a transfer degree that takes you into a CT program at the CSU. Last but not least is our Who Do You Want to Be initiative that has focused on middle and high school students, letting them know about CTE opportunities. And if you go to the website, it's not a website designed for any of us. I personally hate it. It's all colorful and loud and busy. Kids like it. That's what it's for. But we are looking at modifying this one in getting away from bringing students in to focusing on counselors, tools for counselors. And I brought some of our old tools, old-fashioned tools, paper and all this stuff, that we developed a couple years back for counselors, and I'm going to pass these around for you guys to have a look at them. But this is our counselor toolkit, and we're looking at having electronic counselor toolkits where there's the material that's on the web that they can pull down, modify, and use as needed. And that's it. I think I kept it under 10 minutes.
Yeah, great.
No one understood me, but
Member McDougall.
Yeah, I think it's an outstanding presentation, and I think students will be tremendous beneficiaries of that, and so pleased to see it taking place. My question is, what, if any, role is there for the University of California in this? You refer to intersegmental, but we only dealt with one other segment of higher education, CSU. What is the role for UC?
we always invite them. They are, we always invite them. At some of our events, we will have UC faculty there. We have had UC faculty that were active in our smaller group that makes final decisions regarding disciplines. At our meetings of the Intersegmental Committee of the Academic Senates, the UC is always watching. They're very curious, they're very interested, and so we continue to try to get them to play with us as much as we can, and so we're hoping incrementally they will choose to participate more. They don't appear adverse to it, but it takes time to get to build up the trust and have more involvement. But they're definitely aware of everything that we're doing. They look at the work that comes out of us. We'll get questions about TMCs. We'll get those from UC faculty because they are paying attention. One of our ways of pushing out information about everything that's going on is through the Articulation Officers Listserv, which is articulation officers throughout all of higher education in this state. So their articulation officers are aware of what's happening, and their faculty are to varying extents depending on how much they pay attention to it. So
What are some of your speculations as to why they're not engaging in this? It seems as though it would be tremendously beneficial